Hello everyone, welcome to Wiser Biker. I'm Dihua. In this episode, I want to share with you more on V-brakes. Now what are V-brakes? V-brakes is actually a very common brake that is used in most of the bicycles. There are a few things I want to cover with you today. And number one, which is spring tension of your brake calipers. Number two, checking your brake pads. Number three is how to get the right braking travel distance. And lastly, how often do you need to check your brakes or do you need to change your brakes? Okay, so let's start. First one, spring tension. What is the spring tension that I'm talking about? So you can take a look here. I'm going to open the brake lever. The spring tension that I'm talking about is the caliper's spring tension, the spring on the caliper itself. Okay, so you can do a simple check after you open it up. After you open up the V-brake, just press it in and let it go. So you can actually feel how strong the spring is. Now at any point of time, if you feel that the spring is not really strong, the tension is not up to what you like, and it doesn't spring out properly, this is what you can do. Loosen this screw. Okay, most of the screws here is quite standard. They uses a 5mm Allen key. So you can remove it simply with a 5mm Allen key that you can find on most of the hardware stores. Okay, after you remove the screw, take out this. This is the caliper or the spring arm, to call it. Okay, for this, you see that inside here there are actually 3 holes. Usually for factory setting, the spring will be inserted into the second hole. If you put it on the higher hole, if you insert it onto the higher hole, it's going to give you a lot more tension. Okay, you can check it by turning. Right, you can feel immediately that the tension has increased quite a lot, significantly. Now if you put it to the lowest hole, that is where the spring tension will decrease. Okay, so generally after using your brake for quite some time, it is highly likely that it will lose some of its spring tension, which is why I suggest, if you find that the spring tension is not enough, you can actually move it to the higher hole. Okay, insert it into the uppermost hole. And then after that, you can just put back the screw to secure it back into the position. Only do this when you think that the spring tension is not working fine, and it doesn't. The spring arm doesn't spring out properly. Okay, so once it's done, we can feel that immediately it's very strong right now, and we tune it back just to test. Okay, so once you adjust the other side as well, similarly do the same for the other side so that you get a balanced spring power on both sides. And next, we're going to check the brake pads. Okay, so similarly, we'll just open it up. Now this is very important because the brake pads not only ensure that you have a good braking, but you also need to check it often to make sure that it is in good condition. Otherwise, it may damage your rim, and I'm going to show you in a short while why I say that. Okay, so this is the brake pad. It's quite new, so you can still see the grooves inside, and the surface is still considered quite new. Okay, and thickness Alright, so what you see here, there's a line. Okay, usually this is what we call the wear line. Okay, on the wear line, if your brake pad reaches this wear line, okay, which means this friction material has wear out until it reaches the wear line, that's where it's a good indicator that you should change your brake pad, because the braking materials is already been all gone and finished and wear off, right? So that's where you should change. And I've got a sample here. This is what it means. Okay, this is what I mean by the material reaching the wear line. Okay, so it is very obvious now. It really touched the wear line. Now, under this circumstance, you have to quickly change it. Otherwise, what's going to happen next is that if you continue using, it will, all the friction material will be gone, and it will touches the metal part of the brake pad itself. Okay, once you reach the metal part and you continue braking with your rim, can you imagine metal scratching against metal? That's going to damage your rim, and you're going to end up having to change your rim altogether. Okay, so that's why my recommendation is that even before it reaches the wear line, maybe 1 cm, oh no, sorry, maybe 1 mm or 2 mm before it reaches the wear line, that's when I would change the brake pad. Okay, and how to do it? It's actually very simple, using the same Allen key that we used before, 5 mm Allen key. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to install this brake pad. Okay, for the brake pad, there are, you see all this, when you bought it new, there are some spaces here, or we call it washer. They are actually quite thick. Okay, so how do you get it? Get it in the same orientation as it is when you got it. Otherwise, in the detail orientation will be like this. Okay, just follow as it is. One, the curved area inward. Okay, this is a flat area, followed by another same but opposite direction flat area. Okay, then it will fit nicely into the groove. Finally, so this is how we put it in. Just this side here, then the rest outside. And then we screw it tight. Okay, keep it a little bit loose because we are going to align it to the rim surface. Okay, you're going to align it to the rim surface. When it touches the rim, okay, you can just push it in flat, so we get more contact with the rim. That's going to give you more braking power. Right, once you press it against it and just tighten the screw here. Alright, tighten the nut. Okay, and that is done. We get it. Okay, do so for both sides. And after installing the pads, you can close the caliper back, hook it back onto the cable housing. Okay, done. Now, after you change to a new pads, most of the time you may find that you may not even be able to hook it back on and close it, because the newer pads are actually thicker. Okay, so there isn't much room for your wheel to move. So what you do at this point of time is actually what I'm going to tell you next. Now, if you ever experience sometimes that there's some screeching sound when you press the brake, so there is a little bit of trick that some people may want to perform, and that is to actually tilt the brake pad slightly at an angle. Okay, which is like this. Just turn it, and you may want to tilt it a little bit before you tighten it. Okay, just a slight angle. So after we have installed the new brake pads, sometimes you may realize that now you press the brake lever in front and you realize that, oh, it's a little bit tight in the sense that you press a little bit and it's already reached the maximum, it reached the bottom. Okay, this is what we call tight in a layman term. Okay, this is what we call the braking travels is brake travel distance. Okay, see how far your brake lever actually travels. Okay, so let's say if after you change to the new brake pads, because the new brake pads are actually thicker, so when you will experience that you press a little bit and it already reaches the bottom. Okay, at this point of time, what you may do is to adjust the brake travel distance by loosening the brake cable. Okay, it's just loosen it a little bit, loosen here. Okay, using the same tool, a 5mm Allen key. Loosen and tighten it back here. Okay, so next you try and see if it's comfortable for you. Okay, this is a little bit too much because I can press it for quite a lot until very deep, then I can get a hard brake. Okay, and this is not so good. So what I prefer usually is to have the travel distance reach at about half. Okay, so I need to press only half the distance and I should get a very solid brake. That's my own preference. Okay, so I'm going to tune until that. Okay, if it's too loose, I will just pull the cable a little bit and tighten it until I get a nice half travel distance and it's very solid and tight. Okay, great. Now after you get the right travel distance, what you want to check is whether the brake pads are actually touching the rim when the wheel is moving freely. In this case, it touches. Okay, and we can see that which side is actually touching is the left brake arms that is touching. Right, which means it only means that the right side spring is stronger than the left. So what I do now is that I need to make sure that this brake arm springs out a little bit more. And how to do that? Okay, you see this screw here. So most people don't realize what is this screw for. Now this is for you to increase the brake tension. Okay, so if you turn it clockwise, which is like equals to tightening it, you can see that the brake arm this side is actually pulling out a little more, so it increases the brake strength on this side. So I like to keep pressing and turning at the same time so that I know whether I have the braking tension that I need. Okay, so I'm almost reaching the end and I don't get this to pull out, which means what I should do next is to loosen the other side. Okay, it's a push and a pull, right? So if I loosen the other side on the right, this side on the left will have more strength. So I just continue loosening it until I get both sides almost equal spring power. Okay, and then you can see the brake pad actually move out about the same distance and it doesn't touch the rim when it's fully released. Nice. Okay, so this is when I get a nice free moving rim and not touching either side of the brake pad when I'm not pressing the brake. Okay, so there you go, you got a good nice brake all tuned up and ready to go. I hope that this video has made you a wiser biker, and if you like our video, please like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any other questions that you need to ask about your bicycle, you can drop it at the comment box below and we try our best to answer to it. Thank you and see you soon.